This is gonna be terrible. Prepare yourself. This TikToker cloned her cat. It's bad by Royal Young. Um, I know that you can clone animals. I'm aware, but still, your pet is dead. It will never come back. You gotta let go, says the guy that can't let go. Huh. Anyways, let's get into it.
Congratulations, you just won the lottery for $25,000. It would have been more, but I don't got money like that. So, what are you gonna buy? You could have this brand new car, you could pay off your student loan debts, or you could even invest in your future by putting it in a savings account. Boring. What do you mean you don't like those options? Okay, well, you can clone your cat, I guess, but it's gonna be really expensive, unethical, and—
Sign me up.
What do you mean you want that? What's good, everyone? Today we're covering this content creator's crazy cat cloning chronicles, and the ethical conundrum—
Wait, just 25k to clone your cat? 25k to clone your cat. Deal. 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 I'll do it. I will never get let go of my pets. I will always have my cats in my heart. Yeah. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. When my dog eventually will pass away. I hate thinking about it. I hate it.
that arise from it. Before we start, I do need to specify that none of this is meant to be a personal attack on their character. I am attacking their actions specifically. And without a doubt, they are some of the craziest I've ever seen on the internet. Don't be the guy that harasses them though, that's not going to change anything. So as normal,
I wouldn't even this is, what's the word? I wouldn't post, if I did that, if I actually did that and cloned my cat or my dog or anything like that, you would not see me post this on the internet ever.
I was doom scrolling on social media when I saw this absolute insanity come across my feed.
Haven't had a job since February, negatives in my bank account, don't make money off of my socials, was broke, dog trainer prior to leaving my job, and she still did it.
And this post is by someone named Kelly, who goes by the alias Clone Kitty on Instagram and TikTok. So if you're anything like me, you're probably stunned looking at this. My jaw was dropped, my gastids were flabbered. What the hell is this and why would you clone your cat? But before we move on, I do want to say that this is one of the funniest owning posts I've ever seen. Oh, you think I'm a rich psychopath? Well, I'll have you know I'm broke as hell. I am a psychopath though. But why did she do this? Well, we're lucky enough that Kelly made an Ask Me Anything thread on Reddit.
Okay, hi Reddit. This is Kelly Anderson. I started the cloning process of my cat in 2017 with via GenPets. Yes, actually clone, as in they created a genetic copy of my cat. I got my I got my kitten in October 2021. She's now 9 months old and the polar opposite of my original cat in many ways. I anticipated she would be due to a number of reasons and I'm beyond over the moon with the clone. Happy to answer any question I can. Jesus Christ. Oh my fucking god. I'm kind of interested in seeing his feed. That is nuts. That is actually nuts.
This makes my job so much easier because people abandon all moral pretense once they're not showing their face. Oh, by the way, her username is Jesus of Katsarith, which is some level 10 blasphemy when compared to what you're about to see. So according to Kelly, her cat Shy died when it was 5 years old. It was not a genetic condition, luckily, so the clone isn't going to have any issues related to short lives. But that's pretty much the only good thing about this story. I understand why someone might do this, and I empathize with that grief. But this is beyond mere irrationality and into absolutely insane territory.
Should have made a clone of my ex. That will probably not be possible, but I would try.
Oh boy. So in this thread, Kelly will positively respond to any comment asking her about the clone, about the cloning process, about the new cat's temperament, how it differs from the old one, and how her relationship is with it. But there is one sort of comment that Kelly does not respond kindly to, and it's the ones calling her out on her BS.
How do you feel about the cats that are used as an incubation machine for yours? Do you have any info on the logistics behind that part of it? Did any other clone cats die in the process? How many hosts went pregnant and how many clones died before this one finally worked out? Is this post sponsored by Viagen Pets? Probably. Or Gene Pets.
Asking her why she would do something so obviously unethical. So let's start off light. Some people were grilling her on why she'd clone when there are cats up for adoption. And I agree, at least in the United States where there's an overpopulation of cats, cat breeding is already bad enough. So why not adopt from a shelter? Why increase the cat population instead of helping the existing one? At the time of her writing this, there were 3.2 million cats in shelters across the United States, and 530,000 of them were being euthanized each year. So why, Kelly, as a self-proclaimed animal lover, would you choose to clone instead of adopt? Oh right, it's because you're selfish and you wanted a clone. At least she'll admit it though. But this isn't even the important part, not even close. In order to understand why it's truly unethical, you have to understand the cloning process.
It all starts with the donor cat, and my
Yeah, it's kind of... Nah. I mean, if it was like a really easy process and nothing would die, I would actually do it. My dog is not safe from not being cloned. But it would not be this. I think it's not really worth it because it's just not the same pet. I would really just say it's not the same pet, and therefore it is not worth it.
case, that was Chai, the original cat, to Belle. Viagen Pets had my vet collect skin tissue samples post-mortem. From there, they extract the DNA from skin tissue and cryogenically freeze it until the cloning process is ready to go. The next player in the game is the egg donor. Viagen Pets sources their eggs from barn cats that need to be spayed or free spay clinics that they host to the public. Then they remove the nucleus from the egg and place the donor's DNA into it to effectively create an embryo. It is then placed into a surrogate cat who carries the kitten to term.
And here is the crux of the issue. By creating a clone of your cat, you are forcing another cat to get pregnant just because you wanted a cat of a certain look and genetic makeup. And it's not even just that, because most of these procedures actually fail. The failure rate is ridiculously high. And failure means either the surgery was not a success.
I mean, the forced pregnancy is not necessarily that big of a deal. I mean, breeders do that all the time where they want to breed cats on purpose. However, since the success rate is that bad, that does make it unethical. That does make it unethical. It's kind of sad because you're using the new pet and you're seeing someone else through them. Yeah, you can't, what's the word? You can't, like, you want your clone, in this case, to act like the original. But that's never going to happen. Because the unique interactions with your original pet made it your original pet. And the interactions you have with your new cat are not the same. Makes sense. So, yeah.
And the cat did not get pregnant. There was a miscarriage, or the kitten was not viable and died a few days after birth. Oh, or it just didn't look right, so they just gave it away to a shelter. That happens too, because again, this is a selfish cosmetic procedure. Although Viagen will not admit how many attempts fail, supposedly Kelly knows so, but we'll get into that. This one South Korean company who was cloning dogs quite a few years back reported a success rate of 20%. 4 out of 5 attempted pregnancies failed. And this is high in this industry! This is considered a good success rate! Obviously, these are dogs, and this was a number of years ago, so I'm sure technology has progressed. However, 20% was the highest number I could find. In fact, most of them said 3 to 7%, which is horrific. Although I'm hoping it's higher just for my sanity's sake, but I have a feeling that if Viagen Pets had a better rate than that, we would know about it, because that would be a really good PR boost. So to recap, you are forcing cats to get a completely unnecessary painful surgery.
Also, if it was that successful, it would not cost like 25k. It would cost like, I don't know, depending on the success rate. If it was like a 50% success rate or 70%, this would probably cost around 10k and not 25k. Also for dogs, it's more by the way, because obviously dogs are bigger. The more you know.
Numerous pregnancies and numerous miscarriages, and possibly early kitten deaths just because you want a clone. just because you want a cat that looks a certain way. And Kelly loves to pretend that the only ethical debate here is whether it's right to adopt or shop, but she is so dismissive of any sort of criticism when it comes to the surrogates or the failed clones. Despite being a self-proclaimed animal lover, despite being a vegetarian, and despite claiming to be against backyard breeders. Let's have a look, shall we? So this person accurately points out that this is not ethical to force cats to get pregnant just because you want a certain type of cat. And Kelly's just like, oh, well, surrogates are treated extremely humanely with Viagen Pets. Feel free to argue about other cloning companies, which by the way sounds completely sponsored. She claims not to be sponsored by them. I kind of believe her. We'll get into that in a bit, but this is a horrible response. And then somebody replies, yeah, obviously forcing an animal to birth multiple litters is not good. To which Kelly did not reply. You're gonna see this as a really consistent trend. What Kelly always does is that she will reply to one of these comments with her typical canned response, and then once they come back with the obvious logical response, like, yeah, it is not right to force cats to get pregnant, she will not reply any further because she has no rebuttal. Oh, and she thinks it's totally fine because Viagen only uses surrogates a couple of times max.
What has that to do with anything? Like, time to clone. Let's go. What has that to do with anything? I mean, yeah, they use them, but still, like, it is still unethical and it doesn't solve the core issue that you just want your old cat back, but you can get your old cat back because it's just not the same cat.
I mean, that just means they need more surrogates, does it not? Like, oh my gosh, guys, this company is so great. Instead of impregnating one cat 20 times, they impregnated 10 cats twice. Isn't this awesome? Isn't this so ethical? Not saying either approach is better, obviously. I'm just pointing out how ironic it is. Because again, one surrogacy at all is one too many. Because there's not a good reason for it. It's not like we're bringing cats back from extinction. Oh, and by the way, she admits that these surrogates are basically the same as breeding, yet still denies the abuse. And in this comment, she claims to be against backyard breeders. Yet I guess some instances of breeding are fine, as long as it's for your selfish reasons, right? She argues that there are some ethical breeders, but even from her own worldview, how do you know that Viagen gets them from there? What, because I told you? Personally, I wouldn't believe a company charging me $25,000, especially one this new and unregulated, on...
I mean, the breeding part is now... the breeding part is kind of, problematic nowadays because a lot of breeds are so overbred that there will be, like, more defects more and more. For example, German Shepherds are one of the ones that, seem to struggle, continuing to exist because there's so many, things wrong with, like, overbreeding. I don't know what the proper term is. So I'll just call it proper breeding. Yeah. Terrible. Time to clone my girlfriend. Can I have the clone?
Anything they tell me. But she will, though. She will take anything they say as gospel. Every time a source is thrown her way, you know what she does? She's all, actually, sweetie, that one's biased. This is what Viagen told me. Back to the thread, though. What does she have to say about the failed clones? Well, apparently it's as common as it happens with breeders, which... for one, that's just not true. Her source is Viagen told me so, but again, even if that was true, you're basically just admitting to being on par with breeders. So, as mentioned before, failed clones are extremely common in this industry. So how many times did this procedure fail, and how many kittens unfortunately passed? Well, Kelly admits that there were many false pregnancies or no pregnancies, and Viagen would let her know every time this happened. She claims in this article that they told her not to disclose the amount of IVF rounds that the cats went through, and then immediately after, she starts whining about how her Instagram lost engagement. So, how many kittens died? Oh, so about my Instagram.
Yes. How many kittens died? Yes. From what I remember, a pug or a bulldog, not sure which, are having a hard time too. Yeah, a lot of dog breeds and cat breeds. For example, the dog breed that I have, Central Asian Shepherds, they don't have that. They don't have any problems. Like, there will be no defects from overbreeding stuff because they are just, like, fairly underrepresented. But I do want to get another one of this breed because they're so cute and predictive and, like, baby.
And she could be right that 0 kittens lost their lives if there weren't any miscarriages or non-viable births. And I pray that she is right. But regardless of the severity of the suffering, even in the best case scenario, Kelly is still massively in the wrong. Guess what, Kelly? Every single failed pregnancy that these cats went through is a useless surgery they had. It doesn't matter if 0 cats died, you are still so far in the wrong here, and it's wild that—
Yeah, I assume it's gonna be like under, I assume it's gonna be like, they're gonna be asleep for this. Like, every time they do this, they have to put them to sleep every single time. I don't know if that is truly healthy for a cat. I don't see this being healthy for a cat. Are they big? Yeah, she is big. She weighs around like 65 kilograms. And is like, I think 73-ish from like floor to shoulder, like shoulder height. 73 centimeters. Pretty big.
this is your defense statement, because you and Viagen forced a bunch of cats to get pregnant over and over for 4 whole years. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that. The average time to get a cloned cat is 1 year, and it took Kelly 4. This is 4 straight
4 years. The average is 1. Damn it. Wow, and she paid more than 25k. She paid 35k. That is wild.
years of animal abuse in the best scenario. And in the worst case, it's 4 years of animal abuse plus actual lives lost and traumatic pregnancy occurrences. So I don't know if you've caught on by now, but even in the best case scenario, where everything Kelly says is true, she is still massively in the wrong here and won't admit it. So why are we talking about this? Well, for one, this is an incredibly new and under-discussed industry. Like, I can't even believe this is going on just under my nose and nobody else has talked about it.
I can bet that in a few more years, like in 10 or so, this will blow up and there will be more and more influencers getting into this because it gives good numbers and like good views. I can see that happening. I can see it happening. Damn, that's a big girl. Yeah, she is big.
I've seen like one video, but it wasn't about this woman. But also, I find Kelly's behavior both disgusting and fascinating. And quite frankly, it's one of the most ridiculously immature things I've ever seen on the entire internet. Every single thread goes the exact same way, without fail. Kelly, you and Viagen abuse—
Well, P, care to answer the question below. It's been multiple times and no answer from you. Since this is an Ask Me Anything, care to answer no pregnancies? I've answered this many times and the answer is the same. Viagen Pets treats their surgeons extremely humanely. They are used for 2 pregnancies max. That's less than most reputable breeders. No suffering over exaggeration or lack of information. Interesting.
surrogate cats. No I didn't. Surrogates are totally fine and ethical. You're forcing cats to get pregnant. How is that ethical?
Of course, that not explaining why they think it's morally okay, cool, okay, interesting. Information source itself to set records straight, and oh, and none of our response above actually answered the question. How is forcing pregnancy on an innocent animal not causing undue suffering for selfish gain? Goddamn.
And despite this conversation repeating hundreds of times across all sorts of platforms, I have yet to see this conversation move past this point a single time. She knows this argument exists and chooses not to respond to it. Why? That's because Kelly knows what she did wrong. She had a beloved pet die and decided to clone it out of grief, taking out a loan for $25,000 from her family. And again, this is
So she's taking from her family what she's never going to pay back because she's flat broke. Cool.
insane behavior, but I understand how grief can make someone rationalize that. However, we are way past the grief period, man. It is disgusting that you still try to justify this to yourself rather than admitting what you did was wrong. And instead of admitting wrongdoing, she decided to double down and become an unpaid Viagen shill. Because after all, if you double down on your behavior, you were never really in the wrong in the first place, right? Another thing I find fascinating is Kelly's insistence on deflecting every single little bit of criticism that comes her way. In this one, she tells someone to go attack—
No, because they treat their surgery extremely well and cloning has nothing to do with overpopulation of pets. Go attack a backyard breeder where it's warranted.
backyard breeders where it's warranted. Because for some reason, it's warranted to attack backyard breeders, but not cloners. Despite basically having a lot of the same ethical issues. In this other one, she says this person is drawing their conclusions based on horror stories from South Korea and China. Like, yeah, they have horror stories over there, but my story of repeatedly impregnating cats over and over for 4 straight years is totally ethical and is actually a success story. Not like those Korean people, though. Us Americans would never do such a thing. Again, insane levels of deflection, and her entire mantra is just to deflect any criticism she gets to another group, because two things can't possibly be bad at the same time, correct? Kelly's behavior is also massively hypocritical. So, Kelly stated here that if she was forced to have kids, she would do something drastic to herself. But wait, the cats should—
What a hypocrite! No, I have enough health issues that do not need to be carried over to something else. I would delete myself if I had to have a child. Dear God. Hypocrite. That is wild. Hypocrite.
should just be okay with it because you wanted a clone. And I also find it so ironic that she's a vegetarian and yet is totally cool with just breeding cats. Not trying to argue for or against vegetarianism here. I'm personally not one, but my point is that the vegetarian outlook is, it is not right to kill animals just because you treated them well during their lifetimes. Yet she doesn't extend this compassion towards surrogate cats for some reason. Like, it's suddenly okay to force cats to go through numerous painful surgeries and pregnancies just because they're treated well. According to Viagen, of course, we don't actually know. Now, what I think is her biggest mistake is her continual endorsement of cloning, and this is really the thing I'm most mad about. If Kelly admitted this, and she stopped marketing her cat as the clone cat, and stopped being a Viagen bootlicker, who she claims to not be sponsored by.
You're 100% sponsored by them. The funny part is, like, I don't like this argument of I am vegan or vegetarian because I don't want animals to suffer. Because the harsh truth is, even if you're a vegan or vegetarian, most plant-based diets still require insects. For example, for avocados and almonds, billions of insects die to make them. I don't like this argument. You can say you want less suffering. I can understand that, but if you say you want no suffering, that's not gonna cut it. That is not an argument because the suffering will continue. It's just not like mammals at that point. It's just insects and like shrews and stuff and other things. It's not that it's just a preference thing. Eat what you want. Ever goes Karen mode. When others eat meat, brother, just go. That's what I'm saying. Wanna be a vegetarian? Go ahead. Wanna be a vegan? Go ahead. Wanna eat meat? Go ahead. Wanna live off of sweets? I mean, I'm not condoning this, but go ahead.
And I believe it. I think she's just doing it out of guilt. Then this video would take an entirely different tone. I set out to make this video and I expected it to be a more empathetic, compassionate, oh, I understand why someone would do this, however, this is wrong for various reasons. But the deeper I went, I realized that Kelly is absolutely aware of the horrors of cloning, but instead of admitting it, she doubles down. She answers all questions regarding cloning, shares little facts about it, talks about it as if it's a personal choice, as if you're the only one who's affected, as well as banking her own dog's DNA with Viagen too. So sorry for the tone this video took.
So she wants to clone her dog as well. Interesting. I don't think she's broke. I should think she says she's broke, but she gets the money from them.
But Kelly is actively doubling down on her wrongdoings, and it is disgusting to see. And that's why it angers me so much and why I feel compelled to speak out about it. Once again, this is not a personal attack on Kelly. It is an attack on her actions. Alright, y'all, I'm getting depressed. I'm gonna go work on a happy video. I'll see you later.
Well, that was the end of the video. I think cloning is bad because you just... There's too much immoral stuff involved. Pregnancies failing, too many surgeries, and also you won't get your pet back no matter how much you try.